This is the Financial Beat, helping you hit all the right notes in your financial plan. So sit back as we strike up the band. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler starts now.
Welcome to the Financial Beat. Everybody, Logan Sadler is here, of course, the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Gary Financial. I'm Ron Stutz, going to hang out with Logan for a while here, and we're going to talk, as always, about getting you to and through retirement. Logan, how's it going for you today?
I'll tell you what, doing great, and as always, ready for a good show here, and hopefully we pass on some valuable information.
We have some very good stuff to talk about today, and get to that in just a second, but first of all, the most important information I have to give you is Logan Sadler's phone number, 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN. Call that number, and you can arrange to have a discovery meeting with Logan Sadler. It's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything at all beyond that, so why would you not take advantage of the opportunity? One more time right now, that number is 888-823-PLAN. Let's start off today with a little history lesson. If you're a baseball fan, you'll be able to appreciate this. Do you know it was 51 years ago, April 6, 1973, the American League started using the designated hitter. Man, wow. I would have thought, the designated hitter just seems like it's such an integral part of the game, like it's been around forever.
Yeah, it's one of those rules where you're like, what, that wasn't there since the beginning?
Really?
Right?
Yeah,
it's hard to imagine how different the game would look, right?
Yeah, exactly. With the pitcher having to go to the plate in 99% of the cases, it's a strikeout or something. It's just kind of a wasted at bat. But
you're right. There's very, very few pitchers in history have been able to hit the ball pretty consistently, right?
That's true. There have been a few, but not very many. And I like it better with a designated hitter than without, of course.
Yeah, I agree.
It's been around forever, So, hey, they say that when a basketball player goes into the transfer portal, and, they don't play as well at their next school as they did their first school. People say, well, grass is not always greener on the other side. So let's take that kind of lesson here and talk about something having to do with your financial life here. As Sebastian sings in The Little Mermaid, I'm sure you sit and watch that every other day.
Yeah.
The seaweed is always greener in somebody else's lake. And sometimes people have that mindset when it comes to financial advisors. Sometimes it's true that you need to find a new financial advisor. Other times you might think you need a new advisor, but really you're just guilty of thinking that the grass is greener on the other side. There's a great song out there called Don't Let the Green Grass Fool You.
Yeah.
and I love that one. Let's discuss each of these scenarios and whether or not there are legitimate reasons for leaving your advisor. Somebody says to you, Logan, my advisor made a mistake. He even admitted it himself, and it cost me some money. Should I change advisors?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think like you said, there's definitely reasons to change and make changes to advisors and things like that, and then there's some reasons maybe not to. I would say in this circumstance, I think nobody is perfect, right? I always say everybody is going to make some type of mistake in their life, maybe some more than others, and some are more costly than others and maybe more of a big deal, and some are maybe some things that were just overlooked and were pretty quick to be corrected. I always say one thing that I'm a big fan of is honesty and integrity, right? To make sure, okay, if we did make a mistake, how do we make it right? And how do we fix it to make sure it doesn't happen again, right? So I don't know necessarily, because I don't know exactly what type of mistake it was. I don't know if it's really grounds for if you should be looking for another advisor or reasons to move. I will say things happen, right? Things do happen, unfortunately, in this industry and pretty much every industry.
Yeah.
However, to me, it matters how they went about that mistake, right? How did they get you through it and make things right? Did they, right? Did they own up to it? Did they make things right and address it head on, or did they kind of dance around it? That, to me, would tell me a lot about, okay, maybe this isn't the people, maybe we're not doing business with the people we thought we were, right? Yeah. So that might be grounds for maybe looking elsewhere and seeing if there's other places that might be able to have a deeper relationship and a little more honesty and transparency. So that could be definitely a reason why. But again, people make mistakes, and it's more about how you handle them.
Yeah, nobody's perfect, and could be it was a mistake because they weren't paying attention, and That's not something you want.
That's not something. Here's a great point.
Here's another case. My advisor's business seems to have gotten so big, now I never even see him or talk to him. I just communicate with one of his associates. What do you think about that kind of situation?
Yeah, that's one where every business, I think, goes through the ups and downs of growing pains, we'll call it, right? And I know our business, we've grown a lot over the years, and it's obviously a great thing to be a part of and all that, and love all of it. But I think it's super important. One of my favorite job is obviously being a business owner and an advisor, right? There's a lot of complexities there. However, one of my favorite things to do and why I'm in the business is to be the advisor, right?
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely love meeting with the clients, going over the plans, running the numbers, making the changes to the plans, updating the plans, anything that has to do with the advisory relationship, I absolutely love. And so I think that is a big portion of why I'm in the industry. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of advisors kind of forget, right? They forget, like, maybe money starts getting good and they have enough clients and they kind of stop focusing on the clients. And I think it's very important to keep very engaged. It's a very relationship-driven business where it's really important to have those deep relationships. Yes, to keep you as a client, but also as the advisor to help you do a better job to make sure you understand your clients, right?
Yeah.
And now, obviously, in our industry, there's a lot of things that need to be done. So what we do is we do have a team here, right? It's not just me doing everything. We do have a full team here. So, sometimes having an associate take care of a name change or an address change or making adjustments here or there, yeah, that could definitely be useful and sometimes help in speed of service. But I think when it comes to actually meeting with your advisor to go over your plan and making sure that you're having an advisor that's actually watching your plan and guiding you and all that, I think is extremely important. So if you feel that you're not getting that level of service and guidance, that definitely might be grounds to possibly look elsewhere to see if there's some other avenues that might be better situated for you.
Well, I think the bottom line here, and I think I know this much about you, it's all about relationships, and you love those relationships with your clients, and I think it's going to be a matter of, if somebody comes on board with you as a client, it's not going to be a situation where you never see or talk to Logan and you get passed off on somebody else. I mean, Logan is going to be right there all along the way. So
yeah, absolutely, like you said, Ron. I think it's a crucial part of the relationship.
Another scenario here, we're talking about greener grass on the other side, or maybe not. I went to a dinner seminar with a financial advisor and found him to be very entertaining and engaging, much more so than my current advisor. Is that justification for changing advisors?
Yeah, that's funny. I've done dinner seminars in the past. We don't do them much anymore, but I've done them in the past. I do a lot of speaking engagements with local clubs and things like that. And, all that stuff's great. I think it's a great way to grow your business, but it's also a great way to get your information out there and educate people. It's kind of like that first date, right? When you're going out and everything's perfect, right? Then that next date, you kind of find out, do I really want to be with this person, right? I'm sure men or women have went through that type of a scenario.
Yeah.
It's easy to look good for one date, right? And so sometimes you'll go to these events and you're like, man, this guy or girl is really putting on a presentation, right? They're funny, they're engaged. Well, they probably do that 2 days a week, right? So they're probably very, very greased and oiled and ready to go. Mm-hmm. And some of those advisors can transition to be very, very good advisors for you. The one thing I always say is you want to make sure the person that you're seeing and you're hearing speak and all that, making sure they're not just a great speaker, but are they actually a great advisor? Are they actually going to follow through on everything they're talking about? And that, to me, is what's really important. And those of you out there that, if you do have an advisor where you're like, you know what, they're doing my income plan, they're looking at my taxes, they're working with my CPA, we've talked about my estate plan, right? I have investments, my risk tolerance has been addressed. If we're looking at annuities and things like that, we've talked about it to know if we need to use them or not. We've looked at a lot of different strategies, and we're comfortable overall. Then, yeah, you're probably in a good spot. The odds are when you're going to those types of events, sometimes you don't feel like you have all that stuff, right? Yeah. So you're actually out there searching. And so I think when you're listening to radio shows like this or going to events, it's important to understand as the person I'm listening to, do they actually have maybe more value to provide overall and not just be a good speaker, but do they actually have more value to provide to me and my family as far as my retirement plan goes? And then that definitely, again, might be a good, alarm going off in your head to say, hey, you know what? It might be worth going to talk with this person and seeing if they're actually able to put together a better plan and a better scenario.
Sometimes the person with the most dynamic personality or the most charisma, not to say that Logan doesn't have those things, but sometimes that is not the best financial advisor. So, you need to take everything into consideration here. You're listening to the Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call if you'd like to get in touch with him and speak with a very charismatic individual. And we will give you that number again coming up in just a few minutes here. But another situation, I like my advisor, but I've recently moved to a different state, and I'm wondering if I should be working with somebody local instead. That's kind of a tough one, isn't it?
It is, and I think that really kind of depends on you as the individual, right? Because in my circumstance, I work with a lot of clients that are local. They live here in the area, and they come into one of the offices, and we see them regularly. That's all great, and for a lot of people, they need and want that face to face, right?
Yeah.
Now, I will say we do a ton of with the radio and podcast and YouTube and all that stuff, and a lot of our clients, moving around different states in retirement, we do a ton of virtual, right? So we have a lot of clients that aren't even in the state, and it works great, right? We're able to do DocuSign, we're able to pull up Zoom and go over their plan and illustrate things, and we're very adaptive to technology, and we work great with our clients, really wherever they're at, right? And I think that's an important facet of it. But if you're one of those clients that you don't like online or you're not very comfortable technology-wise, you may need to look at someone that's more in a local area for you that you can go in and sit down with. Or maybe is your advisor not open to that? I know some advisors that I've met, they say, hey, I only work with people that come into my office, right? So I think that's definitely something to address. And I know like our firm, we're able to kind of adapt and be nimble wherever our clients go. We're able to give them the same level of service no matter where they're at.
I would think that because of the advancements of technology these days, that is not as big an issue as it would have been, let's say, 20 years ago. I mean,
maybe even 5 years ago, right?
Exactly. Yeah, it's changing all the time. Yeah. So one more thing I wanted to ask you about here, in this case of greener grass on the other side, maybe not. The market crashed and I lost a ton of money in my portfolio. Is that a legitimate reason to change financial advisors?
I always joke. It's probably not the advisor's fault the market went down, right? But no, that's a bad joke. But not all jokes are good. But I would say, one of the things to look at is, did your advisor educate you ahead of time, right? Did you understand that, hey, I'm in a risky portfolio. It could go down 20%, could go down 40%, right? Well, what does that mean? Well, if I had $100,000, I could lose $40,000, right? Having those conversations ahead of time, I think, is very important. One of the things that our firm is a big, big believer on is, we could sit here and talk about, hey, if you put $100,000 away in 20 years, you could have, $500,000 or whatever the amount is, right? Okay, great. That's all fun. Everyone's going to like that conversation, right?
Yeah.
It makes your ears perk up. You go, man, this guy knows what he's talking about. It's exciting. However, I know that when we talk about investments, the good years are going to come, right? I know that historically, looking at pretty much most market indexes and things like that, they've all gone up pretty significantly over a period of time. But I think it's really important to understand, especially the clients that we work with that have accumulated money on or transitioning into retirement or maybe just about to start, it's going to go up and down. And especially in the short term, there might be some down years. And so I think it's super important to educate the clients as far as if the market did go down, what could potentially happen to our accounts, right? Okay, well, maybe if it went down 20% or 30%, we would feel okay, right? Maybe that's way too much. Maybe we need to be more conservative and make the adjustments now. I always say you want to prepare for that storm before the storm comes, right? You don't want to be boarding up your windows in the middle of a hurricane, right?
Yeah.
And just like the market, you want to make sure your advisor is communicating that to you. And I've definitely found by being very communicative about that and being involved with our clients, when the markets do go down, they're aware of what their risk is. They're aware of what their portfolio could have done in this type of situation, but they know long-term they're going to be okay, right? Because we've made those adjustments and had those conversations ahead of time. And I think, that's what a lot of people, they always ask, hey, why would I come on board with Gregary Financial? Why would I give you a call and come meet with you? What makes your firm different than every other advisor out there? I would say that is the biggest thing that our firm does is we really help build that foundation like we talked about earlier about building those deep relationships. When clients come on board with our firm, they're with us for 10, 15, 20 plus years, right? To help get them not just to retirement, but also through retirement and really build that relationship. And it's based off of planning and data and education to make sure that we're really putting together the groundwork to make sure that your plan, again, is built to get to and through retirement.
So much of this is putting in the hard work to stay abreast of all these things and making sure that your clients are educated as well. Hey, by the way, if you find yourself in this situation, maybe you're looking to find a new advisor, maybe changing the relationship you have with one person and maybe entering in a relationship with Logan Sadler or somebody else, why not call Logan Sadler and have an exploratory conversation? 888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-7526. Call that number today. You can arrange to have a discovery meeting, a meeting in which you discover things about him, he discovers things about you. You kind of get to know each other. There's no obligation involved here and no money changing hands whatsoever. It is totally cost-free and obligation-free. One more time, that number to call to make it happen, Regari Financial, can be reached at 888-823-PLAN. I'm Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. You're listening to The Financial Beat.
Don't you want to see sharp and not be flat in retirement? This is The Financial Beat.
Welcome back to more of The Financial Beat. Logan Sadler is here. Logan is the VP, Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial. Well, let's talk about retirement planning statistics. I mean, we talk about stats all the time when it comes to basketball and football and that sort of thing, baseball. But statistics are very important in the world of finance as well. These retirement planning statistics are gathered from all across the country, not just here in Southern California, but I'm wondering if they reflect what you see at Regari Financial, Logan, and you tell us what you experience locally with people that you talk to. You ready?
Yeah.
One stat for you, 76% of baby boomers are not confident that they have enough saved for retirement. Does that line up pretty much with what you're seeing?
Yeah, I would say that lines up fairly well. And, with what I've seen and what I've read, that's probably pretty close to in line. It is funny because I meet with a lot of people that have more than enough, right? Mm-hmm. But the problem is you don't feel like it's enough, right? You worked your whole life, you make $100,000 a year, $200,000 a year, $300,000, whatever you make, and then you have this little pile of money that's $200,000, $1 million, $5 million, whatever you have saved. And you go, man, this is supposed to last me from age 60 to age 90 or age 60 to age 7, whatever age you're planning for, right?
Really?
And you go, is that enough, right? And you look at, inflation, I got taxes, I got investment returns, maybe investment losses, right? All of these things definitely are going through your head, whether you're thinking, whether you know it or not, that's what's going through your head, right? And so I think one of the big things that we're a huge fan of and what we like to do for our clients is make sure when we're building out a retirement plan, most people are not confident because they don't have a retirement plan, right? I know clients that go, hey, I have $1 million, and I go, okay, well, what's your income plan? What are you doing for income? They go, well, I take Social Security, and then whenever I need some, maybe I'll call up and take $20,000 from this account or $5,000 from that account. I just kind of do it whenever I need it. And I go, well, what happens if you take too much? And they go, well, I don't know. How do you know if you take too much, right? And I go, well, the problem with that is you normally don't know till you've taken way too much, right? And then it's harder to correct that mistake. So it's super important to actually put together an actual retirement plan, an actual income plan to look at, okay, I got my money I put away, I got my savings, I got my investments. What is my tax rate going to look like? What type of tax situations and efficiencies should I be plugging into the plan? How much income can I draw? What type of investment returns do I need? All of that stuff to make sure that is actually building out a plan for you. And I definitely have seen that gives a lot of people way more confidence in their plan to know, hey, I have plenty of money. I'm going to be just fine. I can relax and enjoy my retirement. Or I don't have enough money. I need to do these things differently. I need to maybe sell the house, or I got to work a year or two longer, right, or whatever it is. Then at least you actually have an idea ahead of time before it's too late to actually address those concerns.
And you put together a plan, a written plan that you can look at. It's material. You can actually hold it in your hands if you want to. You can get the 3 C's, what I like to call the 3 C's: certainty, clarity, and confidence going ahead.
Yep. Great point. It's hard to put a price tag on that, right?
It really is. Peace of mind is what it's all about. Yeah. Here's another stat for you. A nationwide stat. You tell us if it's true locally with your folks. 30% of workers say they don't know what to do with the funds in their 401k. That is, if they have a 401k.
Yeah.
But let's just assume that they do.
Yeah, no, great point. It always amazes me too when people retire is they go, do you have, do you have a 401k? They go, yeah, I have an old 401k. I haven't moved it. It's been at that same company for 20 years or 10 years or whatever it is. Or I'm over 59 and a half. I always say, typically after that age, you do not want to keep money in your 401k, right? You typically have IRAs and things like that where you can roll them to an individual IRA or a rollover IRA. And that way you have access to more investments and all that fun stuff. Yes, you can work with an advisor like us. You can manage it yourself. You can do whatever you want as far as that goes. But I think it's important to understand the opportunities you'll have. But I think it's really funny where, like you said, Ron, I do agree with that statistic where a lot of times people go, well, that's great, Logan. I've saved, $1 million. I've saved $500,000. I've saved $2 million, whatever the amount is. What do I do with it, right? How do I turn this into income? How do I preserve my wealth, right, throughout my retirement years? And also, how is this going to transition to the next generation, right, if that is one of your concerns? So I think it does definitely go in line with what we see with a lot of the people that we work with as far as what they should do with their money and how they should craft that plan. And a lot of the wealth that people have is in the 401ks and things like that. So it's important to have a really good game plan of what it is you're going to do with that and what the goal is.
Here's another one that's sometimes really great and other times it's really sad. 46% of workers leave the workforce earlier than they had planned. And about half the time, it's because of health issues.
Yeah. That's an unfortunate one, right? Where I see some clients where they don't do any retirement planning, right? They have maybe some money put away, maybe very little. And I go, what's your retirement plan? They go, well, I don't need to retire. I'm just going to work. And I go, perfect. What happens when you can't work, right? And they go, well, I'd be in trouble, right? And it's like, well, yeah. That's the thing is a lot of us, it'd be great. We're all young and invincible and we're going to live forever, right? Until we can't, exactly. Right? And all of a sudden you go, man, you know what? I work construction or I work for the county or I'm a fireman and I have a bad back or I have a health issue, right? Or I had knee surgery. Well, great. Now you can't work, right? And so now what's the retirement plan? And so a lot of the times I do see people being forced into retirement earlier than they had planned. And yeah, sometimes they're going to be fine and everything's going to be good. We went over the plan. They're going to be able to do exactly what they want to do in their retirement. And there's a big portion of the time where you're not, right? You have to take some sacrifices because we had to retire early. Whether we chose to or not, it is one of those things where now we're dealt the hand that we're dealt, and we got to figure out a way to make that work. So I think it's super important. That's why we always talk about if you're 50 years old or 55 years old, it's a really, really good time to reach out, to start working with an advisor to help build that game plan. Because, yeah, you may be 55 years old and go, I don't need to meet with an advisor. I don't need a retirement plan. I'm not retiring until 70. That's great. I got all this time. And then at 62, you got to retire, right? And you're like, wow, that was way earlier than I thought. Yeah. And so I think it's important to help build that foundation early. And unfortunately, I've seen people that were forced into retirement early by a couple different scenarios. And sometimes it's, they were forced into retirement way too early. And the problem is their retirement plan and those golden years we always talk about, they weren't so golden, right? And they weren't even close to how they envisioned it because they didn't do the preparation ahead of time to really make sure that they were protected and really had an idea of what they were retiring to.
Yeah, I'll just add one thing here. When you're young and strong, you feel absolutely invincible, but, it's not always going to be that way. So, you need to do some planning for sure. That's another reason to call Logan Sadler today. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to get in touch. You can get a discovery meeting going, no cost, no obligation. We're talking about retirement planning statistics, or stats as most of us call them. Only 24% of retirees work with a financial advisor of some kind at all. Only 24%.
That is a shocking statistic, right? And the other shocking part about that is that's people that work with an advisor. That's not even people that actually have a retirement plan, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I would say it's even less than that because I meet with people a lot of the time. They'll come in and they go, oh, I got this advisor. I've been with him or her for a long time. And I go, perfect. So you got an income plan, you know your risk tolerance. We've went over, your income, where all your income's going to come from and all that stuff, right? And they're like, well, I got a brokerage account with some stocks in it, right? I said, well, that's not really a retirement plan, right? Yeah, it's a good investment account probably. It's going to be a piece of the plan, but also, when are we going to take Social Security? Do Roth conversions and any of that tax planning make sense? Are we looking at alternative strategies to help, lower the risk in retirement but still produce the dividends and the income we need? A lot of times the answer is no, right? A lot of times they don't really have that income plan or that retirement plan that we always talk about that addresses the 5 pillars of your retirement. It is crazy because that, I always say, is where the real value of an advisor is yes, we have access to some really cool investments that really serve a purpose in retirement. Yes, we have a really good market management strategy. We work with great partners. We got annuities, income planning tools, insurance, all the stuff that's very important as far as investments go. But how does it fit into your overall plan to make sure that you're in a position to not only retire, but to retire with that confidence like you were talking about, Ron, but also retiring to a lifestyle that you actually envisioned in retirement? And I think that's where the importance and really the urgency is to work with a qualified advisor to help you and your family achieve that.
I know that longevity is one thing that you always have to take into consideration when dealing, folks. The good thing is that people are living longer these days. The bad news is people are living longer these days.
Want the good news or the bad news, right?
Exactly. 25% of people who are 65 years old today are going to live past 90. And
Think about that.
Is going to take a lot of planning.
Yeah, you think about that. I got a client of ours, one of my favorite clients, and I know it's like children, right? You're not allowed to pick favorites, but I love him and his wife. They're just absolutely great people. He is 93 and she is 92, and they have been retired since they were like 56 or 57. So they have had a very, very long retirement. And people go, yeah, well, they're in their 90s, probably no quality of life, right? It's like, nope, he golfs once a week, right? He still's got his driver's license, just got it renewed for another 4 years, right? I mean, it's amazing to see that not everyone's like that, but there is people that are able to live that long and live that high of a quality of life. And, thank God that he's got a great retirement plan where he's in a situation to where they're still able to enjoy things and do things, and he's got health on his side, which is awesome, and she does as well. But I think it's important for those of you out there, when you're looking at your retirement plan, a lot of the plans I've seen or talked to people, they go, yeah, I got $1 million. I'm going to take $100,000 a year out for 10 years. And then I should be in my mid 80s. I'll be dead by then. Right. And it's like, well, what if you're not? Right. And so I think it's important to, when you're building that plan, you need to build a retirement plan that's not only built for now, but it's also built to last you maybe 25, 30 years, potentially plus, into your retirement. And I think that's where, like we always talk about, leaning on a good advisor and our team to help get you to and through retirement. Give us a call, come in for that discovery meeting. That's a great chance for us to see if maybe we're a good fit to work together and show you some of the strategies that our firm uses to really help make sure that you and your family are protected and you have what you want in your retirement plan.
888-823-PLAN. That is 888-823-PLAN, because everybody needs a plan. Remember, at Regari Financial, they have great partnerships with local CPAs, attorneys, real estate agents, mortgage lenders, and Medicare specialists to help offer well-rounded guidance in everything involved with your financial life. You can get a discovery meeting at no cost, and there's no obligation. 888-823-PLAN. You can come into one of the offices, either Hemet or Redlands, and talk with Logan Sadler. Get to know him a little bit. You hear him on this radio show. He is exactly the same guy when you see him in person, and I know you'll enjoy the conversation. The number to call to make it happen is 888-823-PLAN. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. We'll talk more about getting you to and through retirement on the Financial Beat.
Logan Sadler is the Vice President and Chief Investment Officer at Regari Financial, and he's the host of the Financial Beat radio show. He also has a YouTube channel. Search for the Financial Beat on YouTube, and you can find over 100 videos from Logan about different retirement topics. Check out his video called 5 Questions You Must Ask Before Hiring a Financial Advisor. Logan will guide you on how to find a financial advisor who is the right fit for you and your needs. Check out that video and over 100 more on the Financial Beat YouTube channel. Just go to YouTube and search for the Financial Beat. We all know Congress has approved trillions of dollars in spending the past year. It's all on top of the tens of trillions of dollars of debt our nation already owes. Yet we're living with some of the lowest tax rates in history. Now, how long do you think that's going to last? Learn how you can prepare for future tax implications by watching Logan Sadler of Regari Financial's exclusive webinar, How Tax Planning Changes Through the 4 Stages of Retirement. Just text the word advice to the number 21,000, and we'll text you back a link to the webinar right away. Text advice to 21,000 and make sure you don't have to pay a cent more in taxes than you have to. To access the free webinar right now, text advice to 21,000.
Does it feel like you and your financial advisor aren't on the same page?
Not quite my tempo. Were you rushing or were you dragging?
Logan and the team at Regary Financial can stay in tune and on rhythm with you. Keep listening to the Financial Beat.
We're back now with more of the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler is here. And Logan, I'm going to give out that number in just a second so folks can give it a call and arrange to have a conversation with you about their financial life, getting to and through retirement. But first of all, I know that you have, literally thousands of podcasts out there. It seems, if you missed past shows, you can check them out. And also, Logan has a ton of YouTube videos that are available. Tell folks how they can get those.
Yeah, like you said, between podcasts and YouTube videos and all that, there's quite a bit of information out there. But like you said, Ron, you can head over to YouTube, type in The Financial Beat. It'll take you right there to our YouTube channel, and we upload there weekly with new content, little short videos for you, maybe 3 to 5 minutes long, going over maybe some of the questions you may have that might help you, give you some information on your retirement plan, right? Maybe what is the difference between individual bonds versus bond funds, right? How much should I have saved by age 60? How does Social Security work, right? All of those types of things that you may have questions on, head over to the Financial Beat. And if there's videos on there that you're not seeing that maybe you want, leave us a comment in there letting us know maybe some tips or tricks or some strategies or topics you might want us to do a video on. We'd be happy to get to it.
Again, go to youtube.com and you'll find all kinds of stuff there. The Financial Beat with Logan Sadler. Once again, the number to call Regary Financial is 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. That will get you a discovery visit with Logan Sadler. It's not going to cost you anything and not going to carry with it any strings attached. Again, 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. Right now, if you're calling during the show, leave your name and phone number. You will get a call back first part of the week, and you will be glad you did. One more time, 888-823-PLAN. Hey, I got a quote of the week here from none other than Albert Einstein, a pretty smart guy. He said, "Do not grow old, no matter how long you live. Never cease to stand like curious children before the great mystery into which you were born." Yeah, you never slow down, never grow old. Tom Petty said that too.
Yeah, exactly. It is amazing where people that stay as active as they can and as young-spirited as they can, it is funny how sometimes they tend to have a little bit higher of a quality of life longer, right?
Yep. That's right, and it's really sad for folks who retire and then just sit on the couch and watch TV and they don't do anything else, so.
I agree. It is. You got to keep moving.
You got to work at it. Let's talk about emotions and investing, and sometimes emotions play a critical role in your financial life, and it's time for some stories from Logan Sadler here, folks. Logan, tell us a story that illustrates the role that these particular emotions can play in retirement planning. So, good little exercise here. How about greed? Give us an example of somebody trying to chase some really big returns when they really needed something a little more conservative and more predictable and safe.
Yeah, there's one client we were working with who was coming on board with our firm right around the start of 2020, right? And so let's rewind back to that beautiful time, right, where where things were almost normal, right, and nothing had happened yet in the early part of like January, February, right? Yeah. And markets were going up, and this individual was getting ready to retire, and he had about $2 million that him and his wife had saved for retirement, and were putting themselves in a really good situation. And in his head, he had thought, what if I could just continue to grow this, right? What if I just stayed more aggressive? And we had shown him a plan where we had put, maybe 20 or 30% of his money in a little bit more conservative investments with maybe some annuities and bonds and treasuries and some structured notes and things like that were going to maybe help provide some more consistency to the portfolio and give him some income and things like that he would need. And then we would still have the rest of the money to manage in the market and do the things we wanted to do with it. And he loved it, right? However, he had said, what if I could just make a little more money before I pull the plug? I'm not retiring for 6 more months, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's their decision, right? And the person had said, what? Give me a few months. Let me look this over, and we'll get back together, right? Which typically we don't recommend. If you're going through our process and you like us, you want to move forward, great. If you don't, understand. But typically, a lot of our plans are really built to address your current goals and concerns, right? Anyway, long story short, everybody remembers what happened in March of 2020, right? So really it was like a month later, 3 weeks later, the market started to go absolutely haywire, right? And not in a good way, going down, right? Due to this little thing called COVID that happened back then. And literally, their $2 million lost around 36%. They were down huge. And it was one of those things where a little bit of greed got to him, right? Where he was waiting a little too long before making some of these changes and thought the markets only go up. They never go down at all, right? And unfortunately, like, what does Mike Tyson say? Everybody's got a game plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? And in that client's instance, he got punched in the mouth by the market. And it was in a situation where the fear and panic of talking to that individual during that time frame was one of those things where he said, I will never let this happen again, right? If I feel the time is right and it's a good time to make a move, I'll make the move. And fortunately for him, the market recovered very fast. Things worked out. But it was one of those scenarios where we were able to get him back on track and things were fine. However, if that would have been any type of market instance where most of the time it's down a lot longer than that, that could have really, really changed the overall outcome of the 20, 30 years him and his wife have worked their butts off. By doing things at the wrong time could have very, very easily impacted the overall longevity of that retirement and made a very, very lasting impact.
That feeling of greed has impacted so many people in a negative way, for sure.
Yep.
Another emotion that comes into play often is fear. How does fear sometimes come into play, and how has that hurt people?
Yeah, I've told the story before, but I have an individual who we met with and did come on board with our firm, and they're a client now, and she's phenomenal. But there was an instance where, her and her other coworkers all worked at this company, and they had been putting away pretty close to the same amount of money per month, and they've worked there for a long time. And one of the coworkers is a client of ours, and she said, "Hey, go see Logan and the team over there. They're phenomenal. They'll help you get everything together." And they're both, about 62, 63, getting ready to retire in the next year or two. Well, the one that's already a client of ours had over $1 million in her retirement, right? And had done a good job putting money away. Her and her husband were well on track. Well, the individual she told to come see us, her and her friend talked very closely about numbers. Obviously, we're not allowed to share any of that. But she had said, I have a question for you. And I said, sure, what is it? She goes, why do I have so much less than my friend that is currently a client of yours? Mm-hmm. And I said, well, what do you mean? She goes, well, I only have, maybe I have about $300,000, $400,000, and my friend has over $1 million. And I go, well, I'm not able to talk about numbers and all. She goes, well, no, I know her statements. I've seen it. I don't care about her money. I just want to know why did I not do as well in my 401k and things like that, right? And I go, well, let's go over your analysis. We'll review everything. And so we look at everything. And of course, the first thing that pops up is she is basically in a high yield bond fund, mm-hmm. right? And she had heard high yield was more aggressive, right? So she was in a high yield fund thinking that she was in the market. She was in high yield bonds, which are, basically junk bonds. And she had some of it in like a money market. So her accounts, she never took any risk with any of those accounts the 30 years she worked there, right? What had happened was her friend was making 6, 7, 8, 9, 10% on her investments over that whole time frame. So her money compounded so much more. And I remember talking with that individual. I said, are you aware that you're in these two funds that are, very conservative, and one of them's, a junk bond fund? And she said, well, no, I don't like being in the market. I don't like risk. So I was just so afraid of losing money that I thought this would be the best place to put it. In that situation there, that is what impacted that overall savings of compounding all of those years, and why hers was so significantly less, because of that willingness to take any type of risk. So fear really played a big role in really changing the overall outcome of what that retirement plan could have looked like.
Yeah, we're talking about emotions and investing, and so many of us fall prey to certain emotions. We'll get back to that in just a second, but let me remind you the way to get in touch with Logan Sadler is by calling 888-823-PLAN. That's 888-823-PLAN. You'll get a call back, and you can set a time to have what we call a discovery visit. A meeting with Logan Sadler is kind of a getting-to-know-you session. First conversation, hey, it's not going to cost you anything and not going to obligate you to do anything, so why would you not take advantage of the opportunity? A lot of people just hope, and, they just hope that things are going to work out. That can get you in a whole lot of trouble, too, can't it?
Yeah, I'll classify hope as, I won't even have a story for that one because there's a lot of them, but I would say that's people that, you know what, I've done well. I think I'm in a good situation. I think if we just sit where we're at, I'm hoping everything's going to be okay. Well, Sometimes it will, sometimes it won't, right? And it depends on, I always say hope leaves a lot to chance, right? And a lot of you would say chance isn't always the always the person's fate or the person's hands you want to lay all that fate on. Hope is good in a lot of instances, but when it comes to money and retirement and investing and things like that and putting plans together, there's a lot you can do to really, really impact the overall direction of it. So why would you not take control of what you can take control of, right? And I think it's very crucial to anybody's plan.
Yeah, I think so. Pride sometimes really gets in the way. Some people don't make a move that they should make because they're just, prideful. They're proud of what they have done, and they don't want to be proven wrong. I mean, that's just kind of a dumb way to look at it, right?
Yeah, I've been working with a lot of people as of late that were kind of do-it-yourselfers. They managed their money in the 401ks and things for a while, and they said, you know what, I'll never hire an advisor. Why would I pay somebody? I could do this myself. And then all of a sudden, they're getting to a point called retirement, and they go, well, there's this stuff called RMDs, there's Roth conversions, there's tax loss harvesting, there's bonds, there's structured notes, there's annuities, there's market investments, dividend stocks. What the heck should I be doing, right? Yeah. And so a lot of times they have to swallow that pride and say, you know what, I'm gonna call somebody, and maybe it's our firm, and we get together and let's go over maybe if an advisor makes sense, right? Can they help impact the portfolio? Can they help impact our retirement plan and give us maybe that stability and that confidence in the plan that we weren't able to get ourselves, right? And a lot of times the answer is yes. And a lot of the ones we've been working with, it's been really awesome to help partner and work with them to help create that plan. But like you said, Ron, you gotta swallow that pride and be able to let your guard down there and build that partnership.
And not only is pride a big part of what a lot of people do, but guilt. Maybe they messed something up in the past, and they just can't get over that guilt.
Yeah, I hear it all the time, and I always say the craziest thing with investments, and let's just be honest, life in general, right, is if you look back 20 years ago, from now 20 years ago, I'm sure, Ron, you could probably find something in your life you probably would have done differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, right? And I always say if you look back in your retirement plan and you're 60 years old looking back when you're 30, yeah, you probably would have said, you know what, you should put a little more money away. You should save for a rainy day, right? You should do all these types of things. When the market crashed, but it's going to go back up, you should stay in it, or you should have bought more. Yeah, we could always come up with those types of things where you'll feel a little guilty that you could have done things differently. However, I always say we're in a situation that we're in now because that's what we got to work with, right? And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but you got to make it work. And having guilt and looking back on things is not normally the way to fulfill that retirement and that self-confidence moving forward, just like life. So, we're in the situation we're in, so let's make it work and do the best we can to get you where you got to go.
One of the best emotions out there is joy, and I would imagine that there are lots of people right now who, if they were to call your number and to work on a relationship with you and get a plan from you, they would experience a lot of joy, and that would be a really good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the best things about my job, obviously, is I always say is, yeah, numbers are fun. Yes, building a business, all that stuff's fun. However, working with a client where they go, Logan, I've saved my whole life for this nest egg. Now I'm concerned on if I'm going to lose it, where taxes are going to go, where am I going to put it, all these types of things. Helping a client help achieve all their goals, putting them in investments that are going to be able to be there for the rest of their life and produce income and safety, and then market investments that might grow and do all the things we need them to do. But really help build that plan that they know that if something happens, we've went over a lot of these scenarios, and they have somebody that if it is a scenario we haven't went over, they have a team that they could turn to that's not only done this for them, but hundreds of people throughout the firm's opening. And I think that is really where you're able to give clients that peace of mind and the joy to know that they have a team that's going to be here for them throughout all these tricky situations. Because I always say one thing, I'm going to build this absolutely great retirement plan, right? We're going to do all this great work, put all these strategies in there, and guess what? Something's going to happen, right? Somebody may pass away early. Somebody may live long. The market might happen. COVID might happen, right? This thing might happen. Everything is always going to change. And so having a team that you can rely on, that knows your situation, knows your goals, and can be there to help you react and make those adjustments throughout your plan is really what you're searching for when you're hiring an advisor.
888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call to get in touch with Regary Financial. You can have a conversation with Logan Sadler that's not going to cost you anything and not going to carry with it any obligation at all. Remember, Logan works with 3 different generations of client families and would certainly welcome an opportunity to talk to you. Many of those clients have been with the firm for well over a quarter of a century. Call Logan Sadler today, 888-823-PLAN. Not only do you get Logan, but you get an outstanding team of wonderful folks who are ready, willing, and able to help you get to and through retirement. 888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call, and do it right now. This is the Financial Beat. We'll have more coming up in just a moment, and we hope you will stay with us. Logan Sadler has a lot more to say coming up. In fact, he's going to answer some questions from some of our regular listeners. That's up next.
If you've spent the majority of your life diligently saving for your retirement future and have accumulated a nice sum, then listen up. Logan Sadler of Regary Financial has compiled a special guide for high net worth investors, exploring 9 investment pitfalls. Get the guide now to see how many mistakes you might be exposed to with your current financial plan. Text the word advice to 21,000. Learn about risk, diversification, taxes, emotional decision making, and much more. Just text the word advice to the number 21,000.
It's getting to know you time.
You're listening to the Financial Beat with the one and only Logan Sadler. I got a question for you that's kind of an off-the-wall question, Logan. And, inquiring minds want to know. What is one item of clothing that you couldn't live without? You got something that's favorite that you always, go to all the time?
That's tough. I'm trying to think. So if I only had one piece of clothing, is that what it's asking?
I guess so. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of probably sounds crazy, but if I could pick one thing of clothes, I like walking barefoot and all that stuff. But if I had to be on my own, I think having a nice pair of shoes would be important, right? Walking through different terrains and out here in California with the hot asphalt, I would probably lean mentally. The tactical side of me would go towards the shoes.
Yeah.
But now I'm thinking about wintertime and all that. A nice jacket or something would probably be nice too, right? So that's actually a tough question.
Yeah, maybe I should ask the question in a different way. What's your favorite piece of clothing that you have? Do you have one item that you really treasure that you wouldn't want to get rid of?
No, I don't. I'm trying to think of that. That's a tough question. What's funny is I would say I like jackets. I like wintertime. So I would say I have a few jackets that I've had a long time that I enjoy.
It's kind of a crazy question. I know.
That was a tough one. You really got me thinking there.
I don't know what I would say if you asked me that question either. So that's
I won't put you on the spot.
Probably not fair. Thank you. You're listening to the Financial Beat. Logan Sadler and I will be right back in just a moment.
Are you concerned about living too long? Do you worry about the cost of health care in the future? These are a few of the signs that permanent life insurance could be for you. Logan Sadler of Regary Financial will help you recognize the rest of the signs. Text the word advice to the number 21,000 to download this free guide to understanding permanent life insurance. Text advice to 21,000. Permanent life insurance isn't for everyone, but it could make a dramatic difference in your financial life. Text advice to 21,000 to find out if that's the case.
Like what you're hearing on the show? Did you know that Logan Sadler also has a podcast? On the podcast, you'll hear more discussion about important retirement planning topics like Social Security planning, tax-saving strategies, and much more. Subscribe to the Financial Beat podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and all major podcast streaming services.
Back now with more of the Financial Beat, and we appreciate your being with us today. Logan Sadler's got some advice for some folks coming up in just a moment here, but let me remind you the way to get in touch with Logan Sadler and get a one-on-one conversation going with him. It's free. It is obligation-free as well. 888-823-7526. But you know the easy way to remember that number. Use the word plan. We all need a plan. Everybody is an individual. 888-823-PLAN. That's your number to call for Regary Financial. 2 convenient offices, one in Redlands, one in Hemet. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to make that happen. Maybe you've been listening to the show for a long time and just haven't gotten around to it. Why not make today the day? Time for the mailbag or request line, whatever you want to call it. It's a way for folks to get some basic questions answered by Logan. And our first one today, Logan, is from Bruce in Redlands. And Bruce says, at age 75, I plan to live in my house for the rest of my life, but there are some things I should probably do to make it more livable for an old person. Should I pay for those things with a home equity line or just withdraw money from my investments?
Yeah, that's a great question, Bruce. Thanks for writing in there. And then, get props to you for realizing that, hey, you're probably going to stay there in the house and you're getting older. You're not there yet, but you might be there one day where you might need some, more livable situations around the house. Maybe it's a 2-story or maybe there's things you got to fix. Understandable. Now, as far as how to pay for them, it really kind of depends on what type of asset you have. You did say investments. I would say I'm not a real big fan of borrowing home equity if you don't have to. If you have some investments that aren't too much of a bite there as far as taxes and things go, that may be a way to start slowly using those to help pay for those things, especially if you could pay for them cash where you're not taking out extra loans or anything like that. That would be probably the way to go for it. I wouldn't touch home equity currently, just depending on what your rate and your mortgage and all that stuff would look like and then what the equity line would look like. I would say probably just withdraw from the investments, but it would depend on how much you have in your investments, what type of tax status it is and all that. So I'd be happy to dive further with you, but that would probably be the direction I'd probably point you in.
Okay. Thanks a lot for the question, Bruce. Again, follow up with a phone call if you would, 888-823-PLAN. Next question here is from Harvey in Rancho Cucamonga. Harvey says, I'm blown away by how much money I'm going to be required to withdraw from my retirement accounts when I hit RMD age next year. Is there any way to mitigate this?
Yeah, it is quite shocking, right? Where I have clients that are like, what do you mean I'm going to have to draw $30,000 or $40,000 or whatever it is based off, again, it's based off how much money you have saved in your retirement accounts. It's a percentage of that. And it is crazy how percentages work, right? The more money you have, the more you got to withdraw and the more you got to pay potentially in taxes. And so great question, Harvey. Thanks for writing in. I would say one of the things I always tell people out there, if you're under RMD age right now, if you're 60, 65 years old and you're retired or 70 years old, whatever age you are, there is some planning you can do ahead of time via Roth conversions and some other strategies that way where you can definitely lower the overall impact of what the RMD may have and potentially increase the tax efficiency in a portfolio or in a plan. But when you're already at RMD age, you are limited on certain options. You could take more than the RMD out, which could lower the RMD next year, but you're just taking more out this year and paying the taxes. So it would kind of get tricky there. There is, however, qualified charitable distributions and things like that. If you're one of those people that's charitable and likes to give money to churches or qualified charities, there is a way where you could actually gift your RMD up to a certain amount, which is very high. But you can gift your RMD directly to the charity or a portion of it, and that way it counts as your RMD, but also would not be taxable to you. So there is some finagling around it. One thing I would say, Harvey, is give us a call. Let's go over your situation and let's get an actual plan together of what we're going to be doing with these RMDs, if we need them or not, and how we're going to strategize long term.
Whatever it is, there is strategy involved, and Logan Sadler knows those strategies, so that's another way he can be of assistance to you. 888-823-PLAN is your number to call to get in touch. More on that in just a moment here, but one more question today from Rachel in Corona. Even though the numbers have supposedly looked better recently, I'm really worried about inflation over the next few years. How should I be investing to combat this? What do you think, Logan?
Yeah, inflation is one of those things that, like you said, Rachel, it's going to be there and it goes higher and lower in certain decades, but it's always probably going to be there for the most part, right? They always call it like the Big Mac test, right? You look what a Big Mac cost back in the 80s versus now, it's gone up, right?
Yeah.
Drastically. But I think as far as your retirement plan goes, you want to make sure, the problem with a lot of retirees is we want to make sure our money's safe for a lot of us, right? We say, hey, you know what? I need to provide income now. Maybe I'll do some annuities or bonds or treasuries, and I want safe money. The only problem with that is yes, you should probably have some there. The downside is long-term. What investments do outperform inflation? They're typically, more equities like stocks and things like that, maybe even real estate. You want to invest in things that long-term are going to provide you a good enough return to overall try to outpace inflation. So you definitely want to think when you're building your plan, and that's part of our job as the advisor, is to make sure you're building a plan to help accomplish what you need now. but also making sure we're investing right for the future. And that's where you're going to get a game plan together to kind of help hedge those inflation risks that are going to come now and down the road. And we have a couple different tools and strategies we use to help offset that, depending on risk tolerance and things like that. But there is some strategies you should be using, but those are some areas you probably want to look at first, is some of those market-based investments and things like that. But it all first starts with getting that retirement plan together to make sure you know you're going to be covered now, and then we can invest for the future.
You want to get together with Logan Sadler and talk about your financial future? 888-823-PLAN is your number to call. You can have a conversation with Logan that's not going to cost you a penny. It's cost-free. It's also obligation-free. 888-823-PLAN. 888-823-7526. That is the number to call to check it out, and Logan will look forward to getting to know you. A discovery visit is on the way. It's on the agenda, but first you have to reach out with a phone call, 888-823-PLAN. Logan Sadler is the VP, Chief Investment Officer at Brigary Financial in Southern California. Hemet and Redlands, a couple of convenient offices for you, and Logan would love the opportunity to get to know you and help you on your road to and through retirement. Hey, Logan, anything else you want to add before we go today?
No, absolutely. It was a great show, and I appreciate everybody stopping by. I will say, those of you out there I've been meeting with, I've met with a lot of radio listeners this past few weeks, and it's been great to get to know you, and a lot of you came on board. It's great to help make that impact, and just happy so many people out there listen to the show and enjoy it. And we'll be back here again next week to help bring you another insightful show.
Check out the podcast, check out the YouTube videos, and check out this radio show every time we're on the air. We certainly appreciate your being here today. Ron Stutz along with Logan Sadler. You've been listening to The Financial Beat.
Brigary Financial and Insurance Services, Inc. and BD Financial Group, Inc. are separate and independent entities. The information provided in this presentation is presented for educational and informational purposes only and does not constitute financial, investment, tax, or legal advice, nor does it constitute an offer or solicitation to buy or sell any securities.